What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. After the long wait and all the nattering and gromishing, it is finally election day. And the East Coast polls start closing about 3 hours from now. So if you have not gotten out to vote yet, you still have time to go on out and make an impact. It's going to be a close race in a lot of states. So don't think your vote is being wasted. Get on out there and get down to the voting booths and, do your civic duty here. This is the one time when the politicians are actually paying attention to you. So don't waste it here. Now, there's another little thing you've got to pay attention to, and I hope I'm getting this to you in a lot of time. Apparently, there is a lot of malware, including ransomware, disguised as political ads from the major candidates, and it'll pop up in your mail, and it says click here to donate to your candidate, and the next thing you know, your system is hosed. So once again, there's nothing that can go on in the world that the cyber criminals cannot take advantage of. But there's phishing attacks going on and just all kinds of stuff happening there. Now, an estimated 93.3 million votes have been cast early. This is roughly 2/3 of all the votes cast in 2016. Now, I was looking at the numbers Fox News put up there just a little while ago, and I was rather surprised how few of the mail-in ballots requested had actually been returned. It's on the order of about 60% overall. So a lot of those ballots wound up getting thrown away, and hopefully those people have gone on down to vote in person here. Apparently, in his last few rallies, Donald Trump was smashing the online audience records. Apparently, 177,000 viewers watched the live video feed from the Georgia rally. 1.7 million supporters watched the Trump Sunday rallies on RSBN. And so the enthusiasm is definitely there. And it was interesting, again, on Fox News a little earlier, they were showing where Kamala Harris was out there trying to do some last-second rallying, and she didn't really draw much of a crowd. And I really think that's something that we all need to keep in mind, is the relative sizes of the crowds that Trump has pulled relative to Biden. And it is quite striking. And to me, it's an indicator of how this election could go were it allowed to proceed honestly without a lot of meddling, which unfortunately is not the case here. Apparently, according to this article that came on out of Blabber Buzz, Democratic mayors and governors are using the corona lockdowns as election meddling tools for voter suppression, just telling people not to, go outdoors and you're going to catch coronavirus if you go on out. And, of course, this is all targeting GOP areas here. And so, I mean, it's no holds barred. They're not even trying to hide it. Apparently, over in Philadelphia, and remember, Pennsylvania is a key state. As Pennsylvania, it's going to come down to Pennsylvania the way it did come down to Florida back in 2000. So the Democrats have been caught cheating on video in Philadelphia. They are going down the lines, handing out Democratic voting guides, even inside the polling site, which is illegal. It's called electioneering. You're not allowed to do that. Apparently, Republican poll watchers are being blocked from entering the polling places, again saying, well, they're not practicing social distancing or whatever else that was going on here. And of course, we know that Philadelphia has a reputation of being corrupt. But apparently, it's wide out in the open there. They're just refusing to let GOP poll watchers in to keep an eye on what's going on. Now, in one Pennsylvania county, heavy GOP, 3/4 of the mail-in ballots have vanished. And this is in Butler County, which went for Trump back in 2016. And another man caught handing out Democratic literature to voters waiting in line. It's really, really ugly. And again, caught on video, a Philadelphia poll watcher was prevented from entering the polling place. So, I mean, it's really ugly. I mean, with an honest election, I would predict a Trump landslide. With all the cheating that's going on, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. Now, there's another article out here. This came from Washington Examiner, talking about there is a hidden Trump vote, and they're talking about all the violence that's been directed against Trump supporters, stealing signs from their lawn, vandalizing their homes, and it's resulted with people telling pollsters they haven't decided yet. They're pulling the Trump magnets off their Jeeps and taking their signs down. They don't want to be a target, but when they get into the voting booth, they're going to vote for Trump. Now, again, going back to Fox News earlier today, there was an analyst out there saying that there are so many new voters this year that the pollsters have missed them completely because they weren't on the voter rolls from 2016. And nobody, there are no metrics on them at all. So we don't know what's happening with that. Another article, this one coming out of Blabberbuzz again. And apparently the Biden campaign is in panic mode after realizing the Latino vote is leaning toward Donald Trump. And so some Democratic operatives are concerned because there was a lack of outreach to the Latino voters in this campaign here. Now, here's an interesting little story. John Schwartz, who's a left-wing writer for The Intercept, that just recently had that Glenn Greenwald resignation exposing the censorship rot at the heart of it. But he's this left-wing writer for The Intercept, came on out and literally said that at least 75% of those who work for the mainstream media have a side job destroying Trump ballots. Now, I don't know if he's being metaphorical or he's actually going over at night to rip up Trump ballots. But he came out in a series of tweets saying that destroying Trump ballots is not a felony. He's wrong about that. And he added, the Constitution says you can destroy Trump ballots. And everybody hopes he's joking because the Constitution does not, in fact, say that. Okay. Now, this is where things are going to get a little bit ugly. As we reported earlier, Washington, D.C. is boarding up. All of these Democratic cities that have seen these riots, they're all boarding up. They're expecting that if Trump does win re-election, there's going to be more violence and rioting. And apparently Antifa is sending out notices to their followers to dress up as Trump supporters when they go on out to break windows and set fires. They want to disguise the rioters as Trump supporters to make the case that Donald Trump truly is a dictator that must be violently overthrown. And the article in question actually had a photograph of one of these Antifa flyers. It even said, you know, if you can find a convincing police uniform, wear that so that nobody knows who they're fighting. Apparently, as one example of what's going on here, a far-left activist was arrested in Florida on Sunday with the swastika sign and a Confederate flag harassing Trump supporters. Scott Lee Rexroth was arrested for impersonating a Trump supporter and taking photos with Trump supporters in Miami. So it's part of that anything goes at all costs mentality that we're seeing coming out of the liberal camp right now. Okay, another article. This one is coming out of Axios, and basically saying that if the news organizations, if the corporate media declares Joe Biden the president-elect, even before all the votes are counted, he is planning to address the nation and declare victory, even if Trump continues to fight in court. And, you know, Biden advisors learned the lesson of 2000 when Al Gore hung back while George Bush declared victory in that contested election, putting Al Gore on the defensive while Bush acted like the winner. So they're going to replay that very much in reverse. So if Biden is declared the winner, even prematurely, he'll begin forming his government and trying to look presidential, and absolutely is going to oppose any doubts that Trump might try and sow regarding the legitimacy of the election. And Joe Biden is, making these last few stops around there. He's tweeting out his promise of gun confiscation. And again, he's talking about assault rifles, and he says we're going to end the mayhem in the streets, forgetting that assault rifles are only a tiny percentage of the weapons used in homicides, with handguns overwhelmingly being in the majority. But he's not talking about handguns. He's talking about the assault rifles. And you have to wonder why. Well, because that's the weapons the government is afraid of. They're not afraid of masses of people with handguns because they lack range and accuracy. They want to get the assault rifles away from the American people in case the coming riots do turn into open warfare in the streets, which I am not encouraging, and I'd really like to avoid it. But at this point, it is a distinct possibility here. Now, interestingly enough, there is another article, and this one's from Russia Today, and it goes back to where Nancy Pelosi lobbied for an easier way to remove a president in the case of incapacity, and made the odd comment that it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. So apparently Trump's lawyer, Giuliani, in an interview with Russia Today, says that the Democrat plan is to force Joe Biden out of office if he's elected president. They're openly laying the groundwork for it. They're going to put Kamala Harris into the Oval Office. And she is about as, if Kamala Harris were any more left, she'd be coming up the other side of the planet by now. All right, now, Helmut Norpoth's election model shows a 91% chance will be victorious with 362 election votes. There's a lot of polls out there. And even the corporate media polls look like they're trying to hedge their bets. They're trying to pull back and say, well, it's narrowing, it's getting closer, it's too close to call. And I think they're trying to avoid the huge embarrassment they suffered back in 2016 by proclaiming Hillary as an absolute certain victor in the election, only to have all that egg thrown all over their face here. All right, now a coalition of 14 conservative European parliamentarians led by the Sweden Democrats have nominated Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize based on his work with the Abraham Accords that normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations such as the United Arab Emirates, Sudan, and Bahrain. Okay, and over in Portland, the Black Lives Matter rioters, those peaceful rioters over there, gave Trump a free campaign ad by trying to burn down an apartment building and smash up a university. And they targeted this college. Many of them went to. The Antifa and Black Lives Matter terrorists smashed up a Starbucks and attempted to douse the place in kerosene. This is at the bottom of a building with 300 apartments above the Starbucks. And fortunately, they were not able to get the fire going before they were stopped. But I mean, that's just how incredibly crazy it is out there. Okay, now a judge has just dethroned, if you will, California's COVID dictator, Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom was out there, just with all of these ridiculous demands and rules and restrictions regarding COVID-19. And Sutter County Superior Court Judge Sarah Heckman basically barred Newsom from making new coronavirus laws that use the California Emergency Services Act, which amends, alters, or changes existing statutory law or makes new statutory law or legislative policy. And the judge basically said this flies against the California Constitution and basically shows that Newsom is interested in one-man rule over California. Now, the White House has blasted Dr. Fauci in a statement Saturday after the so-called health expert criticized the White House health advisor Scott Atlas and said the U.S. was in for a world of hurt from the pandemic this coming winter. Okay, now, as you know, the other day at one of his rallies, Donald Trump has dropped a hint that he may be firing Dr. Fauci, which is going to happen whether Trump wins or loses, because he's still got 3 months in office to do whatever he feels like doing. Okay. Over in Michigan, pardon me, their Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, they're backtracking on the state's latest reopening plan. They're tightening COVID-19 restrictions, citing the rising number of patients, and they're requiring restaurants, barbershops, tattoo parlors, recreational facilities to record the names and contact information and visit times of all customers to aid with contact tracing. So it's getting a little Orwellian out there. All righty. Now, over in Germany, Merkel has announced that Germans will not be able to have New Year's Eve parties, and social contact will be restricted for all of the winter to tackle the coronavirus. So that means, you know, Christmas as well. Over in Austria, let's talk about the international news here. As you're already probably aware, there's been this horrific terrorist attack in Vienna, and the interior minister is out there saying heavily armed and dangerous terrorists are still on the loose. Last I heard, they had arrested 14 of them, and they basically have killed 4 people was the last number I heard. And the manhunt is no longer limited to the area around the Jewish synagogue, which is near where the terror attack occurred. It didn't attack at the synagogue, just close to it. The Austrian Interior Minister, yes, confirms that 4 civilians died in the Vienna attack. And the shooting took place in the inner city district, and added there were persons injured. No additional details, but the police are calling on people to stay away from all public places or public transport. I think this was a very large operation, and they have not caught them all. All righty. Now, apparently over in Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijani troops are at the gates of the capital, and Shusha, which is located just a few kilometers from the capital, Stepanakert. And the president of the republic called on Armenians to take arms to defend their homeland. So it's getting very intense there. Russia is now vowing all necessary assistance to Armenia in Nagorno-Karabakh, which threatens a regional war. And basically said that if Azerbaijan spreads its military operations against Armenia itself beyond the contested Nagorno-Karabakh region, it will give all necessary assistance to Armenia, with which Moscow has a defense treaty. And down here, another little story. This is from Global Research up in Canada. No let-up in the U.S. war on Iran. And, of course, the war is being fought by other means, sanctions, all kinds of other pressure. It hasn't broken into open military action yet, but it almost seems like it's headed that way. So, of all things, Iran, under both right wings of the U.S. war party, transforming the country into a subservient vassal state is a high priority. The U.S. government has never forgiven Iran for breaking free of U.S. control back in 1979. You know, the attitude is once you're a vassal state, you stay a vassal state. How dare you kick out that Shah of Iran? Alrighty, over in Afghanistan, apparently ISIS stormed the Kabul University. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has announced a day of mourning after a terrorist attack against the university killed at least 22 students. The attack has been claimed by ISIS, and officials say they killed the gunmen. Signs are the gunmen shot every student they could, including those who were fleeing, although ISIS was saying the target was a specific graduation. Now, French airstrikes have struck in Mali, killing over 50 Islamic fighters. And we've got to take a break for commercials, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here. And, you know, over the last several days, actually, we've had callers into the show talking about taking up arms, picking up arms, this courageous willingness to get involved in the fight against the evil ones here. I'm opposed to picking up arms, as I've made abundantly clear, I think, here. But I would like to implore you to pick up your checkbooks, okay? Because the war for the minds of America, the war for the future, is not going to be fought in the streets of America, I hope. It's going to be fought here virtually on the internet and the independent media. And so, grab that checkbook. And remember, if you're using your checkbook to fight this war, nobody's shooting back at you, which is a plus there. So the postal address where you can send that check or a postal money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. I thank you too. It helps us all. All righty, getting on back to the international news. Pardon me. Apparently yesterday, the French government launched airstrikes that killed over 50 Islamic militants in Mali. And apparently the actual operation took place on Friday, and they just announced it on Monday. They called it Operation Barkhane. And a lot of people said that this was actually a revenge for the beheading of the teacher in Paris. So we'll see what happens there. Now, this is an interesting development. This is from fortrust.com. And apparently, Dutch state journalists tried to bribe a Russian man into saying that he was the one who shot down Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 over eastern Ukraine all the way back in 2014. And, he was one of the suspects in the show trial. And basically, he says he was offered about $58,000 to get on up there and say, that he shot down the airplane. And he says now it was bought and paid for lies, and he's willing to take a polygraph to validate what he is saying now. All right, getting into the economic news here. As you know, there's been a huge amount of unrestrained spending. A lot of it's related to the COVID-19 and the stimulus. The U.S. Treasury is predicting they will need to borrow an additional $617 billion with a B to get to the end of 2020. And they're basically saying it's below the all-time record of $2.75 trillion borrowed in the April to June quarter, which is when the stimulus went out. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of money here. Another article, this one's coming on out of Russia Today, and it's talking about how major airline companies may not survive the COVID crisis. This is coming from the head of the International Air Transport Association, Alexander Dejuniak. And according to Alexander, the air transport situation is catastrophic, with intercontinental traffic having fallen by more than 90%. All righty. Over in France, Macron is on alert as violent riots over the economic crisis begin to spread across Europe. I mean, they already had the riots for the Muslims attacking Christians and Jews over the Charlie Hebdo cartoons, but apparently the economic crisis is also sending people into the streets. Now, Macron imposed a second national lockdown in France, declaring that a sudden and brutal break on the virus transmission was needed. However, Macron acknowledged the threat of violence and riots exploding on French streets against the lockdown, saying that he would take full responsibility for the reactions the lockdown will cause. Well, I certainly hope you do. I'm sure there's probably a few of those old guillotines still sitting around in barns somewhere here. All righty now, YouTube has started censoring veterans' anti-war videos. So their censorship isn't just limited to the U.S. presidential election and doubts about vaccines and things like that. Apparently, this veterans group have complained, saying that YouTube and Google platforms are violating the free speech rights of an Afghanistan and Iraq War veterans organization. And by refusing to allow online promotion of its video honoring a U.S. Marine, two-time Medal of Honor recipient, and urging an end to U.S. military involvement in endless wars in the Mideast. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be back. We're going to go ahead and open the phone lines for your calls on this election day. Welcome back to our show here, and with an eye toward the story that we just did about this veterans organization being silenced regarding a video opposed to the war in Afghanistan, opposed to all the wars in the Middle East here. There's another little article that came out of Global Research up in Canada, basically talking about how freedom of speech on the internet is pretty much dead. And there's this de facto free speech court over at Facebook that seems dedicated to the idea that free speech never comes back. Now, company spokesman Andy Stone told the Wall Street Journal that the social media giant will be applying the lessons learned from previous elections in accordance with the designs of hired experts, vague references to new teams. And we know, of course, it's more liberal bias. They're suppressing complaints about the war, opposition to the war. They're suppressing doubts about the COVID-19 pandemic. They're certainly suppressing concerns about the harm that vaccines can cause, which we know they do. That's why the Vaccine Injury Court has paid out all those billions of dollars. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open the phone lines, area code 512-248-8252, and we're going to start with David in Boston. Hello, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Hey, Michael. I was talking about Afghanistan yesterday, and just in a whole series of Trump's broken promises. He's given some lip service to getting out of Afghanistan, but he's had 4 years. The troops have been drawn down, but a lot of stuff is hidden. They still have those contractors and Blackwater and they use these other operatives and everything, thugs, so that they can say well, there's only 15,000 troops left over there or something.
Yes.
And everything. But Mike, listen, I want to advocate for the Afghan people. They fought the Soviet Union probably more than they was anti-communist as can be, probably more than even Solidarity in Poland. The Mujahideen, the Afghanis, are probably more responsible for the demise of the Soviet Union than even, as I say, Solidarity, which came after them, of course, in Poland, in Pope John Paul II and everything. But so they were anti-communist. They drove the Soviets out, and then, of course, there was the Charlie Wilson's War, and they made a movie out of it, and the whole story. Now, this is the thanks that this great global super Satan, whose seat of authority is in Washington, D.C., this is the thanks that this great global super Satan gave to the Afghan people. This false flag thing on 9/11, this is nonsense that Osama bin Boogeyman coordinated the whole thing out of a cave in Afghanistan. The truth of the matter is, and tell me what makes sense to this intelligent audience, the Osama bin Boogeyman caveman story or the Dick Cheney story right underneath the White House in the emergency control bunker under the White House. He was on that phone. He was coordinating the whole thing. He was controlling the whole thing. He was having our military stand down, telling them that it's just an exercise. I think it was called Global Guardian exercise. And every time the Strategic Air Command or the local Air Force bases wanted to scramble jets and everything, he was assuring them that it was just part of this Guardian Global exercise. What makes more sense? So Osama bin Laden over in a cave in Afghanistan, orchestrating and controlling all the details of this attack are Dick Cheney's in the command and control bunker underneath the White House. And of course, Bush is nowhere to be found. So Cheney will.
Well, he was down in Florida at that school.
Right. Yeah. Reading the book, I call it the Judas goat, the story about the goat. Read Judas goat, in my pet goat. Yeah, his pet Judas goat. His pet Judas goat was in the control bunker underneath the White House. That's where his pet Judas goat was. That Dick Cheney. And but Mike, it's unconscionable that we've been over there for 20 years. We're over there to mob them for their opium. I lived in a veterans facility for several years, right across from a SEAL, a Navy SEAL and everything. And he told me he was in Afghanistan, even though he was a Navy SEAL. He was in Afghanistan, and early on, he said that they used to collect the opium and everything, and they used to have to, other American agents, soldiers, and everything. They'd have to pass it on to. But
yes.
Anyways, it was always supervised by a man in a Western-style suit, a dress suit, and they were commanded not to look at that man, especially never look him in the eyes. This is anecdotal, but this is what this guy told me, and they passed the opium off to be transported to well, they say God knows where, but obviously it wound up here in the United States. But anyways, Mike, I got to be quick about this. There's going to be a lot of calls, especially on election night here. But
yes.
So for 20 years we've been killing those people. Now another unconscionable thing, when they blew up the hospital that was built and run by Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders.
Yes.
They blew that up. And then those rat liars said, "Oh, it was just collateral damage." No, it was direct hits on that Médecins Sans Frontières hospital. It's disgraceful. Afghanistan has never done anything to us, but the reason these communists down there in the Washington District criminals, the great Satan's global seat of authority, the reason they hate Afghanistan so much is because Afghanistan is so much anti-communist. And those stinking communists down in Washington, the District of Communists, they hate anybody that's anti-communist. But it's disgraceful what this great global super Satan has done to Afghanistan. And I demand that we withdraw our troops immediately. No matter who's elected, no matter which fraud, whether it's the demon wrath or the Republic crud. Bring our troops home and stop tormenting those people. They've suffered enough. That damn Madeleine Albright, where she was saying 1.5 million of the Iraqi babies died of diarrhea because they wouldn't let in Imodium and kaopectate. And she said, "Oh yeah, it was worth watching all those babies die of the months. We wouldn't let any of the shipments of kaopectate or anti-diarrhea medicine in. It was worth it watching all those babies die." Well, we're doing the same thing to Iran now with these sanctions.
Yes, we are.
Okay?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. And I condemn, I renounce, I rebuke, and I declare that the curse of Jesus Christ abides upon the great global super Satan, and the curse of Jesus Christ abides on all supporters of the great global super Satan. And but we're seeing Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini just unfold with these anarchists, atheists, and anarchists, and believe me, World War III is coming too. World War III is coming along with.
Yes, I fear you are correct on that. I fear you're correct on that.
Yeah. So anyways, I voted today, Mike, and I'm a very transparent person, and I had to write it in. Paul's fortunate it's on the ballot there in New Jersey, but I felt really great. I felt like God writing the names of Don Blankenship and William Moore into the book of life. I cast a good vote, loyal to my oath that I took on entering the Army. I cast a vote for the Constitution. I'm not voting for any Republic crud or any demon rats. And I'll just say this one thing to Tom. I know he's going to get all excited. You know, I was thinking I would love to see Tom from Florida debate sloppy Joe Biden. Boy, you know, in New York they used to have rumbles. I lived in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. When the gangs used to fight, they'd call it a rumble. I'd love to see Tom from Florida bumble with Joe Biden. Wouldn't that be something to listen to? Florida Tom bumble, get into a bumble with Joe Biden and watch them bumble it out together. My money would be on Tom from Florida. Tom, you would win. You would win the bumble. You would definitely win the bumble. There's nobody can out bumble Tom from Florida. So that's all I get to say. So, okay, Mike. Thanks for taking my call.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Paul in New Jersey. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
You know, Mike, all year round, we hear the alt-right on the alternate right talk networks complain about the left-right paradigm. You know, and the very people who complain about the left-right paradigm and the Hegelian dialectic, and you hear it all the time, and yet when they go to vote, they ignore third parties that are really located elsewhere on the political spectrum, and not on the current left-right paradigm, which, by the way, might be outdated anyway. Because really, if you think there's much of a social difference or cultural difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, you're totally mistaken. I mean, they have so much in common. They love diversity, inclusion. They love the gays. They love them. Trump even said it. He loves the gays. You have Richard Grenell come out saying he's the most pro-gay president ever. Right? Donald Trump likes men in girls' rooms, and I'm sure Joe Biden does too. So really,
I was not aware that Trump was in favor of men in girls' rooms. That's a new one to me.
Well, in 2016, he said it was all right that that athlete, who had the sex change operation, for him to use any bathroom he chooses. He said that in 2016. And he was running, so he's fine with men in girls' rooms, or so-called former men.
Yes.
In girls' rooms. He said so. So that's what I'm saying, is that we shouldn't call the current political choice between Trump and Biden really a right-left paradigm. We should really call it a slightly right-left paradigm, or maybe just a left-left paradigm, because culturally there's no difference. As a matter of fact, America is the great exporter of cultural degeneracy. We're the ones who put the homosexual agenda in the movies and try to get the Chinese to watch it as part of our foreign policy.
Well, I don't know. Great Britain has a lot of homosexuality in their movies and TV.
The Chinese are more culturally conservative than America is, that's for sure.
Yes.
And so what I'm saying, and that's why I'm saying, between these two parties, and then as I said about Joe Biden actually wants to raise taxes because he might not want to run up the debt like Donald Trump has done. Remember, in the past 40 years, the president who ran up the debt the least was Bill Clinton, Democrat.
Yeah, but he looted Social Security to do that. Remember? They took the.
It doesn't matter when you're the president. You preside over during your term over the running up the debt or not. Bill Clinton ran up the least.
Paul, that Social Security trust fund for the baby boomers was not the property of the government. It was the property of the American worker. And there was a big stink in Congress about this. Corporate media ignored it. But basically, the reason Social Security is in trouble today is because the cash buildup for the baby boomer retirements was spent as general revenue. And that's where Clinton got his magic budget surplus.
Either way, however he did it, I always argue a balanced budget is quite a preferable thing. And as I explained last week, and if you look up Keynesian economics, Donald Trump has borrowed $7 trillion under his presidency, gone up the debt, and that is, by definition, Keynesian economics, lowering taxes.
Well, don't forget how much of that was required by the COVID outbreak. You keep forgetting the money for the stimulus and all the rest of the COVID medications and masks and testing and everything. That is a big part of that run-up of the debt. And that was certainly outside Donald Trump's control.
But he had, without COVID, he would have run it up $4 trillion. Still, the same as what Obama, same rate as Obama. And that's what I'm saying about the choice between these two very similar parties, while RBN and RBN talk show hosts seem to be sounding more like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, and have totally ignored Don Blankenship and the Constitution Party, which really is more like, politically, many of these very talk show hosts.
Yeah, but Paul, my problem with the Constitution Party, I don't have a problem with their party or whatever, but they're not on the ballot in all the states. And the reality is that by virtue of their name, the Constitution Party, they're pulling voters away from the GOP. And it's a very common trick in elections. I mean, Ross Perot did the same thing when he ran. He ran primarily to draw votes away from somebody else, for which he was handsomely rewarded later on. So I'm sorry, I'd love to see the Constitution Party do better. They don't stand a snowball in the dark region's chance of accomplishing anything this election.
Yeah, but I take umbrage with the term a spoiler. Notice the two-party types who are either Democrats or Republicans, when you tell them you're going to vote third party, you all of a sudden are called a spoiler. Like there's a sinister connotation, as though I'm in league with some nefarious forces out there trying to undermine our two-party system. You see how that works?
Yeah, I see how it works, but I actually supported Ross Perot and the guy before him, Anderson, when they did their third party. I think I'd like to break the monopoly of the dual-party system here. It's just the Constitution Party is not yet positioned to be able to do that.
Well, by not promoting it, not voting for it, you're not going to promote it. You see? And let me say this. I voted for Ralph Nader in 2000. By the way, I know some people who voted for George Bush back in 2000. And guess who was right in 2000? Me, the guy who voted for the third party Ralph Nader. What a great vote.
Okay, well, Paul, we got to take a break. Got to take a break for commercials, and thank you for the call. We'll be back with more calls after these few words. And welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Layla in Canada. Hello, Layla. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, Mike, I was looking again at some of the statements made by both Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. And I refer specifically to the phrase, all men are created equal. That is a bizarre statement for Jefferson to make. If he was a learned man, he should have recognized the absurdity of such a statement, because there's nothing more unequal than anything that lives and feeds off other living things.
Well, it was bad science but good politics.
It was good politics, but unfortunately, the Constitution is treated as though it is a document on which everyone, the Constitution is treated with reverence, and that is one of the problems. And the founding fathers are also treated as iconic figures, and they were actually enacting their own beliefs and justifying their own actions. We know Jefferson had an affair with one of his slaves, and was he justifying his own behavior?
No, what he was doing was trying to prevent the rise of a nobility, because the model for society prior to the United States had been that people were not created equal. There were the ordinary serfs, and it was viewed that the nobility were somehow automatically superior by virtue of their birth, and they wanted to prevent that in the United States. That was also the reason behind the original 13th Amendment.
And yet we do have people from certain families whose children have become leaders and have enriched themselves at the public expense.
Yes.
And it has happened anyway. Perhaps it's endemic within human nature and it's impossible to avoid. And recognizing the reality then allows people to deal with decision making that is based on a more rational approach. But the other thing, I don't know if you've read the letter of August 1790 that was addressed by the Jewish community I think it was Rhode Island, to George Washington. And he and Jefferson both went to, I think because Rhode Island was one of the last colonies to accept the Declaration, they wanted to reward them and went there. But there's a letter in which Washington literally uses quotes from the Old Testament and then feeds back the words. He wrote first a letter to different communities, but it was a Jewish community who, and if you watch a video on YouTube, they're still boasting about it today. It's the Touro Synagogue, Touro Synagogue, America's oldest synagogue. And it was in 1790 that George Washington was quoting back that everyone should live under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none made afraid. But he will also then goes on to make a statement.
Yeah, Layla, I got to put you on hold. Layla, I got to put you on hold. Okay. Got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back. And welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. The phone lines are full right now, so if you get disconnected or a busy signal, wait until one of the other callers finishes and then dial on in. We're talking with Layla in Canada, and you were just sort of wrapping up this story about George Washington visiting this synagogue, and they're still bragging about it, which makes a lot of sense.
Both he and Jefferson were visiting Newport, Rhode Island. And there is a letter where the first community that he responded to a letter to was the Jewish community. But there's one thing there that is really important because it holds up the standard upon which the exploitive elite, Israeli Zionist elite, could have been stopped long ago. Washington's caveat is that they can live with no persecution. However, he requires only that they who live under its protection should demean themselves as good citizens in giving it on all occasions their effectual support. Demean in this case, I assume, means conduct themselves as good citizens. And
yes.
Instead of conducting themselves as good citizens of the U.S., and giving it their effectual support, instead they've been parasitizing the entire U.S. and the people who worked so hard and died building the U.S. That was a role model. And this has happened also in Canada and everywhere else that universal Israelite alliance took root. And so we have to recognize, first of all, that there are flaws because of the personal motivations of those who created the Constitution. Just like the Bible is not a perfect document and
yes.
It has been revised repeatedly, it's time to look again and judge people by, are they actually demeaning themselves or conducting themselves as good citizens and giving the U.S. their entire effectual support instead of parasitizing it? And there's one other name of previous men who ran for the presidency. Ron Paul should never be forgotten. I mean, that man was one of the first to alert us to how much money was being drained off to support Israel. And it's time people really, I don't know, maybe the U.S. has grown too large to be sustainable. Maybe it's time that people are partition. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but certainly violence is not the answer. And a cold reflection, cool, calm reflection of where things went awry, going back to the beginning, and then how to best arrive at some kind of answer to solve the crisis that's upon us. Anyway, I'll let you go, Mike. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you for the phone call, Layla. We're going to switch over to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Mike. I'm always after Layla. It's strange. There's no such thing as equality, and there never will be.
No, there isn't.
Pipe dream. No. You know what? Even if you look at that book, Brave New World, I mean, that's not even remotely close. I mean, it's just nonsense. This is the animal kingdom. We are living in the animal kingdom. There's no two ways about it.
Mm-hmm.
Strong survive. It's always been that way. And they more than often than not, that the strong prey on the weak. The way it works.
Yes.
I got something I want to sell you, and you have to have it, right?
Yes.
Even that way. So, online censorship. When you said that, Mike, you know what? It's everywhere now.
Yes.
Up in Canada, I mean, it's just brutal. Daily Mail, they censor, even though it says, this forum or the comment section is not moderated. That's pure, unadulterated bovine excrement.
Okay.
I posted something today on 3 different stories that anyone that votes for the Trojan Joe Biden deserves what they get. And it never went through under 3 different stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what word. There could have been some kind of algorithm there. Maybe, they're actually looking at this stuff, especially now, because anyone that posts, comments on a story, I mean, honestly, Mike, it's just something to do, right? For me, that's all it is. It's something to do. I don't really care. I'm not on Facebook or anything like that. And, of course, I'm not on CBC because I've been banned for life.
Yes.
Because I called out, the people that are really running this country, and they live in Montreal. But anyway, that's basically all I wanted to say. Yeah, online censorship is alive and well, and it may get worse. There, this liberal Trojan horse, Joe Biden, and
Yes.
and it may get better if Trump.
No, Biden's campaign has already said if he wins, they're going after the independent media. That's us.
That's you.
Yep.
Those are the people that are telling the truth. So there you go, right?
Yep.
It's kind of funny that they know you're around. I figured they'd be so they're so full of themselves, self-centered, that they wouldn't even realize that there are actually people that go to your website and people just like you out there, and
Mm-hmm.
they're actually telling the truth, and not this corporate media who are pulling their strings. So I know you got a lot of calls, Mike. I appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Mark in California. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Just happy every day.
Okay.
Real quick. Well, not real quick. Not quicker than me. The election. There should be, and I know it's too late now, but I mean, this is within the realm of possibility. Not that it's worth anything, because I kind of think it's only lip service. But in terms of choosing a candidate, there should be a point system. In other words, if we're stuck with choosing what has been called the lesser of two evils, there should be like a point system, like 1, 2, 3. 3 being we like him a lot, 2 being well he's okay, and 1 being well we're voting for him, but we have to kind of hold our nose when we do it.
Okay.
I think that would clear up that would clear up a whole lot of this. Well, we're gonna go for Trump, or we're not gonna go for him. If there's like kind of a 1, 2, 3, then I'll take a risk and say it. Yeah, I voted for him or whatever. But it would be the number 1 because I've got my issues. One of my biggest issues started way back when he first got elected. He did not lean on the Department of Justice and law enforcement or the judicial system enough. he did not lean on them enough when it came to people who committed violence against his own supporters.
Yes.
The very first week he was elected, that boy was kidnapped in Chicago and tortured and everything. You know, I'm still not pleased with that. Those people should have got life, and I think they're walking around now. The chemical terror attack that was perpetrated on the hotel for the deplorable. Remember that
Yes.
thing?
I remember that.
It's like, so as far as this election, it really boils down to you don't even have to like him. And really, I'm more pissed at him in terms of some policy, but in terms of personality, every time one of his campaigns come on, I can't help it. There's something he's going to say that's going to make me laugh. And I like it. You know, and that, I told somebody this a month ago, you know, I wanted to marry the guy. Years ago, as soon as he said the phrase fake news, that's it, we're done, I love you. You know, it's like, you know, but me being black, me living in LA, me being part of the car community, and being surrounded by a bunch of Democrats, and me being absolutely in love with a lot of my peers, a lot of my Hispanic and friends or whatever, it's not a safe thing to express, man.
No, it isn't.
If he lost votes, I think one of the reasons he's lost votes is because there are people out there who have been absolutely convinced that it's not a safe atmosphere to be a conservative. And should something happen, like you know, the I can't remember the name. I want to say the Rittenbachers, but they're not there. But you know, the couple that had the Marauders on their front lawn.
Yes,
you know,
I remember them.
We don't
Yeah.
even have to use them. We can use anybody, like the trucker who really tried not to run anybody down, but at the end of the day, he ended up being the one that faced charges. I mean, anyone who doesn't watch antenna TV has got to see that there's been a clear message that's being sent from the left that doing violence on the right is okay, even if it's unprovoked, as long as it's because they're on the right. There's this unwritten, you know, rule that said it's okay. You know, I told you months ago how I'm still very disturbed about that speech that Maxine Waters gave when she said, confront them in the restaurants, confront them here, confront them there. You know, that whole slap a Nazi thing. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and I'm guilty too. I'm very guilty because I'm guilty of cowardice. Because in the black community, especially if you're around, you know, people who've been on the other side of the law, that kind of, you know, whatever. It's like any support for a cop who got a bad rap, any support like you know, when blacks openly went and talked to Trump, the way the other black community came out and, like, you know, doxed him, like they could actually somehow revoke your black card. And I hated that. I told some person, like, listen, if you could revoke my race, if you can revoke my background, can you, like, make some alterations to me physically? Like making you a little taller, making you a little smarter, make my IQ a little sharper while you're at it? I mean, you know, basically they can't. So some of the things I'm saying, people like Tom in Florida really should understand that I say these things at great risk to myself.
That's a big problem for Trump supporters.
Yes. And I'm in Beverly Hills once a month, and I've never seen the big pro-freedom rallies. I'll say pro-freedom because it's not even about Trump. Now it's about an ideology. Okay, so I call it a pro-freedom rally, whatever. But this goes into another confusing factor. I kind of thought I sort of had a handle on things, and of course had some of the answers. And I mean, it wasn't 6-7 months ago. I really got a monkey wrench thrown at me when it shouldn't matter, but it does. When I found out that Gavin McInnes is a card-carrying, proud, flag-waving Zionist.
Okay.
And that threw me for a loop. I mean, I thought he was maybe Canadian and not really American, but he was kind of the guy like, hey, he's a guy that's not American, but he's cool because he's sort of like touting American values, and like, you know, like a lot of my Hispanic friends, I view them as Americans. Even I know some of that are here, or I did know people that were here illegally, and to me, they were very much American because of our value system and just a respect and a way of getting along. You know, we don't card our neighbors. You know what I'm saying? We just tend to know that they're our neighbors, and if the mail piles up, we know something's wrong. If we, you know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, Mark. I need you to wrap up. I need you to wrap up here because we got a lot of callers waiting on the line that we need to get to.
Okay, really quick. Also, I'll give a little present to Tom in Florida, and actually even to Justin in Jersey. Trump's advertising campaign has been a little bit too soft. This would never fly, but this would be the kind of commercial if Tom saw this, he would stand up and clap and cheer. If you can visualize all the events that's happened in the last, especially this last year with the violence, walking up the street, waking up people, the demonstrations, the breaking the windows, all that dumb stuff. If you just roll that clip, and on top of that clip, you play the audio of the 70s boy band comedy, here we come. I don't want to do a copyright violation.
That's the Monkees. That's the Monkees.
And then at the very end of that, Trump would say, I'm Donald Trump, and I approve of this message. Don't you know that would make the Dems' heads explode? It would never fly, because they would immediately go to the whole racial thing. But I think it would be hilarious. And this is coming from a black guy, okay?
All right.
Every time when I look at the violence and the riots, I turn it down and I turn on that thing, and it's like it's apropos. Okay.
All right. Well, Mark, I got to let you go. Mark, thank you very much for the phone call, but we've got to give other people their turn now. So let's switch over to Mark, another Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark in North Carolina. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Hey, things are looking good right now for Trump. From what I gather, the only thing I'm concerned about right now is these slime balls, these slugs like this guy Shapiro.
Yes.
In Pennsylvania, I think he's the attorney general there. Some of the statements he's making, they're going to try everything they can to cheat with these mail-in ballots. Now, I'll say this. I think what Trump should do, he's going to probably be declared the winner by most, normal people tomorrow, okay?
Yeah.
By the end of the night. He needs to do, though, is make it clear if they try any shenanigans with these loose mail ballots, like even that Judge Sullivan there is the same clown that's refusing to throw out the charges on Mike Flynn.
Yeah.
That they will not get away with it, that he will not only won't he leave office, he should make an appeal to patriots, volunteers, and say, you stand by me. We will not let them steal our country. We will not let them steal this election. And if that means, to arms, to millions of American patriots, and what you might want to call militias, or you might even want to call in, if it's a constitutional sheriff, posses, citizen posses that sheriff forms, whatever it takes, you cannot let them steal this election, because this is going to be, I think this is going to be an overwhelming landslide. Everything looks to me like the amount of people that are coming out to vote that are telling, the so-called virus to go F itself. These people are coming out to vote. These two people are Trump voters. And it's going to be, I believe, everything's pointing to an overwhelming Trump victory. Now, I'm saying, I want to say one other thing, too, about with Trump. Okay? Hopefully he's going to change some of his foreign policies if he's reelected. When he's reelected, because it looks like it's going to be way more to him. And one thing he should keep in mind with his his Middle East policy is based all on Israel, Netanyahu, Zionism.
Hey, you got 30 seconds, Mark.
Okay, just look at Shapiro and think of Shapiro. You think people like Shapiro on your side? So stop supporting the Zionists. If you do nothing else, if you win re-election, leave Syria alone, leave Iran alone. That's all I got to say, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call here. We're going to take another break for commercials. We've got more callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here, and the lines are full right now, so let's go to Bruce in Texas. Hello, Bruce. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. You hear me? Because I'm calling on the new line for the first time.
I can hear you fine, and you're on the air.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Hello, Paul. I'm sure you're still listening. Have you noticed that Paul has never mentioned who actually is on the ballot for the Constitution Party?
I think he did in an earlier phone call.
Party.
Yeah.
Did he? Okay. It's Don Blankenship. Do you remember him of Massey Energy? Yeah.
Yes.
He's the guy that under his tyrannical leadership, he killed 29 coal miners through negligence, and he actually did a year in jail for that accident. It's a huge mess, and he ran the place by all accounts by his employees, and even his housekeeper said that he would grab her by the arm and throw food around and yell at her, and this guy in 2016 he quit the Republican Party because he was a never Trumper, the Club of Growth type people, and so he's a top contributor to the Constitution Party. So this is just a vote scam. I mean, I'm all for more parties, but this is not viable. This is BS. And just like Gary Johnson in 2016, he was also trying to pull votes from the Never Trumpers. He was part of that organization as well, and that was exposed back then. So let's just keep this in mind. I'm pretty positive that if no one's going to vote. Listen to this show, if they have half a brain, you might as well just stay at home, but at least, don't sit on your butt, go vote for Trump. That's all I got to say on the matter. Don Blankenship, just Google him, and you know what I'm talking about. That's all I got. Let the other callers come on.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Lauren in Ohio. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I hear so much frustration, and mostly it's because we feel helpless to do anything. But you've got all the power in the world. The opposite of live is evil, and that's what's going on. We are doing the opposite things that's required for life. Vaccines, GMO food, prescription drugs.
Okay.
They know darn well little tetracycline will stop this little machine. This is mycoplasma. This is old stuff. I keep telling people, please read the paper. Mycoplasma, the linking pathogen in neurosystemic diseases. It's by Professor Don. Read it. It's right on the front page. Mycoplasma. It's AIDS. When you look at this pathogen, it's got AIDS, Ebola, MERS, SARS, and one more pathogen. I can't remember the name of it. But Dr. Sherry Rogers talks about it. She's a medical doctor with 4 board specialties. Okay, she has to take a week off for each specialty to study the lies. She has to write on the test, pass the test. She's an old lady, 50 years in practice. This is a mycoplasma pathogen-based weapon system. They patent it with this coronavirus so that they can say, oh, we have to stop it. There's no need to stop it. The survival rate is 99.98%, unless you're over 65, and then it's 94.5%. And guess what? People die. If you don't take good care of your health, people die.
Yes.
That's called life. Not to mention all the lies that they're telling us. And that's what I mean. We It's our fault because we keep accepting the lies. We keep it's like this election. The polls say it's neck and neck. We have to wait for the results. You don't have to wait for the results. I was driving up and down the road this weekend. People, Trump parades everywhere, riding in cars, flags waving. You know, he can go to a town and 50,000 people stand there to hear him. I mean, come on, man. Joe Biden is a pedophile. He's committed treason against this nation. Multiple countries have him with, you've got all the letters, the blackmail, the payoffs, Hunter Biden whining about the spy chief. He's disappeared. Well, yeah, I guess he would disappear if the government does its darn job and protects us against military invasions from foreign countries. Yeah, good. But the whole point is, this is a guy. Are you kidding me? There was a woman. They had this woman, and she was just crying. You could tell the pain that she was in because she said she cast her vote for Biden because she just has to stop Trump. But she knows Biden's a pedophile, and you could just see this woman just, this is what it is when you get this cognitive dissonance going on. When you're trying to hold two beliefs that are polar opposites, and in your heart, you want to think you're a good person. You put a lot of time and energy into trying to make this system work the way that they presented it. But the problem is it's a lie. Now, with regard to what Layla said, we are created equally free. We're equally free under God to have free will and to run our own lives. It doesn't mean we all come with the same faculty. Some are tall, some are short, some are black, some are white, some are, but the point is that between you and God, you and the Creator, whatever you want to call him, that's who you got to answer to. Not to other men. No other man created you. We're here because we all want to be free and run our own lives. And then we put a constitution together and a Declaration of Independence that says for the purpose of government. Governments are instituted among men to defend these rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
All right, Lauren, I'm going to have to let you go. I'm sorry. We got to take another break for commercials. More callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right back to the phones here to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Yeah, I just love that spirit of Lauren. And my hat's off to Bruce, because for the past probably 6 months, I've been talking about these people that come and just espouse this Constitution and anything, any other party except to avoid getting down on the ground floor and doing some work and turning the Republican Party around. And, Bruce hit it off perfect. Here they go. They're supporting a guy they know nothing about. Oh, get out there. Vote third party. Vote Constitution. I'm voting Constitution Party, and I'm proud. I don't know what the guy stands for, but I'm proud as hell. And here you go. And I've seen this over and over. I've seen them support these guys. Oh, they're the Constitution Party, or they're the Libertarian Party. Oh, by the way, we're anti-gun and we're open borders and all this other nonsense. Really, that's what you want? And the guy, Paul, that called, unbelievable. He doesn't know a difference. He doesn't see any difference in the spending in Obama, who bailed out the auto industry and took perfectly good cars and destroyed them and wouldn't even let them take the cars and be repurchased on the market. Really? You don't see a difference? You don't see a difference in the federal appeals court judges and the judges Trump appointed? You don't see a difference in Trump's Second Amendment approach to things? You don't see a difference in the way Trump has tried to handle immigration when they said he was racist because he wanted to put up a wall? You don't see any difference there? Really? Really, you guys? No. Let's take another look at this. And this it's just so ridiculous. It's not about being perfect, because none of these guys are ever going to be perfect. This is not the Ozzie and Harriet world anymore. And I hate to tell you. And we're not going to have no more George Washingtons and Thomas Jeffersons for a long, never in our lifetime. But Trump at least gives us a step there to where we can, hopefully pull in a Supreme Court justice that just might help us out when we least expect it, or, something of that, or promote maybe the next Ron Paul or somebody like that. But are you kidding me? You're going to put in Biden and get what? Misery? I mean, we already know he hates you. He supports Antifa. He supports Black Lives Matter. I mean, really? And your vote doesn't matter? Honestly. That's all I got to say, Michael. Thank you. And you know what? One other comment.
Yes.
Not only would Tom tear up Joe Biden, I think 99.9 of your audience would have Biden in an insane asylum with just 2 or 3 questions. Have a great show, Mike. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot here. And we're going to switch over to Nathan in Northern California. Hello, Nathan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Oh, hi, Mike. Just real quickly, you've mentioned before that, Trump didn't straighten out the elections. He had this election fraud committee set up and he really didn't do anything.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you Google states refused to cooperate with Trump's election committee, okay, if you Google that, the things that come up are 15 states refused to cooperate with Trump, 45 states, 44 states. I mean, it wasn't a slam dunk to straighten out these elections because these states are not, willing to cooperate. And so what do you have to do? I mean, you have to sue these states to get the voter rolls. I mean, and then they appeal it, and then you have to go through that process, and then you got to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. Straightening out the elections is, it's just a stupid thing that's not doable.
Well, the first thing we can do is we can have much more stringent punishments for election fraud, like the Democrat who was inside a polling place handing out Democratic literature. That's electioneering. It's already illegal. That guy should have been arrested and thrown in jail. And that's a big part of the problem with election fraud. Is every time somebody's caught committing election fraud, nothing happens to them. They tend to skate away.
Yeah, okay. Steve Bannon was talking about something like that this morning. And by the way, Steve Bannon, the War Room, he's got a show tonight on election eve. This whole election. I guess it comes on at 4 o'clock Pacific time and 7 o'clock Eastern time. But he's going to be covering.
That's when the polls close.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's when the East Coast polls close.
Yeah. Well, anyway, one other comment on Social Security. Social Security, as far as, messing around with it, goes back to Lyndon Johnson. And he dipped into the Social Security fund to help finance the Vietnam War. So that's, something to...
No, a lot of presidents have done it, but the Clintons did it to an unprecedented degree. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. And that's why Social Security is in trouble now, because the baby boomers that cash set aside had been intended for, it's not there anymore. And the baby boomers are retiring. I know, I'm one of them. And it's just not there.
Yeah, I know.
And that's another reason the government is having to borrow more money from the Federal Reserve, is to keep that obligation to the American people.
Yeah, okay. Well, one last thing, and I'll get off. These Trump bashers that you have on your show, you have Trump basher Layla, Trump basher Mark, Trump basher David, Trump basher Paul, Trump basher Dustin, Trump basher Jim, and a number of others. I mean, I refuse to listen to these people. I absolutely refuse to listen to them. The nicest thing they all can do is to check into a hospital and quietly die. Just go away. Get off the planet and get out of the galaxy.
Don't sugarcoat it like that. Tell us how you really feel.
As an ex-listener, huh?
I said, don't sugarcoat it like that. Tell us how you really feel.
Well, I'm glad you got a sense of humor. Here's how I really feel. I mean, David, he calls the Trump people deranged. I think David should check into an institution and stay there until the sun freezes. Just get out. These people are to me, as a Trump supporter, and I'm not saying Trump is perfect, but I am saying as a Trump supporter, I refuse to listen to them. And Mark has come on and said that you and him and Dustin and Layla can run the country better than Trump. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. That is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard on
now
your
I'm
show.
insulted.
Huh?
Now I'm insulted.
Well, I didn't mean to insult you, but I'm talking about reality.
Yes, where's that drop button?
Huh?
Nothing.
Anyway,
I'm
Michael,
so kidding.
that's my 2 cents. I mean, I really don't listen to these people. And one last comment. My father was a chef, and I heard him, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 years ago. He said, you know, when somebody complains about the soup being too salty, he said, you really ought to pay attention to that, because there was probably 25 to 50 other people that felt the soup was too salty. They just didn't say anything. And so I'm trying to tell you from my point of view that, you know, these people are very irritating. I don't want to listen to them. And I really hope you clean up some of these callers and get some fresh blood in here. And maybe
Well, I think, you know, once this election and its confusion is over, I think that problem is going to correct itself.
Okay. Well, good luck to you, and thank you very much for taking the call.
All right. Thank you very much here. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes. Yeah, Michael. Aloha. Good day to you. Yeah, Mike. First off, there's some good news here in Dade County. Looks like Trump's really pulling up now. You have a little quick snap of what's going on. That Trump is everybody's going to the polls right now to vote. It looks like Trump's going to win it here in Dade County. And if he does Dade County, he's going to win the rest of the state. But that's the good news. But here, Mike, here's what I want to talk about. You know, the Miami Herald the other day, I called the earlier show. Earlier this morning I called the show, but 2 days ago they had in the Miami Herald and the Fort Lauderdale Sun Sentinel that there's over 500,000 witches putting a hoax on President Trump. And the Democratic Party wants to act like they're all righteous and all that. And they have witches. I didn't know so many witches lived in the United States. And they're promoting doing all this witchcraft and voodoo or whatever. And they're going to try to hoax the president. What kind of nonsense is that? And you got these.
Well, it is nonsense. I mean, they tried to do that back in 2016 and it didn't work. You know, and I don't want to, you know, get on anybody's case about what they choose to believe in life, but, you know, which is, you know, it's like voodoo. There's not a lot there. And like I said, back in 2016, they tried the same thing, and obviously it didn't take.
Well, Mike, you know, to me, like you say, that's disgusting. I mean, you got all these freak shows going after Trump. You got the Demon Rat Party, the tyrannists. I call them tyrannists. They're tyranny. That's what they are. The Democrats. That's what they stand for. Yeah. Tyranny. Tyranny. That's what they are. And it's absurd. And you know, the last caller was a very good call. He made a lot of great points that last call. And Miles always makes great calls. Miles, man, I'll tell you, he makes some really wonderful calls. And you know, Mike, to see what's going on here with this country, with this election. I've got one lady. She was awesome too, Shane. You know, she's seen all these parades and all that. And we still got to hear all the dirty narrative from all these leftist communists. Google's full of crap. Google. Why isn't Dustin called in about the 30,000 women, almost 30,000 women in New Jersey don't have a voice because of Facebook? That's disgusting in itself, Mike. Google.
Yes.
So who's running all these Zog? It's Zog. This is what this is. It's Zog agents. Who is this? Who is this, Mike, running this? Who is this? I mean, we really got to get to the point. How much craziness more do we got to hear from all these? Look, Mike, like I told you a year ago, until we get somebody buying the media, one of these ABC, CBS, or NBC, we're always going to hear the same narrative. Oh, Biden's winning. If you had one of those major networks that were in control of Donald Trump's narrative, he would be winning this thing by 99% right now. But you have all three of those networks controlled by, I don't know who they are, Mike. Maybe you do. But if Donald Trump just had one of those major networks on prime time, he would win this in a landslide, just like I told you about.
Well, the word is he's going to start his own network. And I imagine if he wins re-election, he'll put it off for a few years. And if he loses the election, though, he's going to start his own news network, and I'm going to send him a resume.
Well, you know what? I'm going to send him $500, Mike. I'll send him money.
Okay.
I'll send you money. I already did. I'll send more money. I'm retired. In 3 more weeks, I'll be retired. 3 more weeks, I'm retiring. I'm getting the heck out of this.
Congratulations.
It's crazy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Mike, I just got to say this, and I'll let you go. I know you got another call, but Mike, this election here is the most imperative election in my lifetime. I mean,
yes.
if you have a Kamala Harris who will be the president within 6 months, and you have gas at $5 a gallon, I want to hear all these liberal New Englanders call in your show. They won't, because guys like me and the other call and other Miles and all these other great callers, we're not going to put up their ridiculous say, you got to say that, I can't vote. And you know what? It's true. Dustin's right. Well, he's going to sit out the election. He's not going to vote. His vote doesn't count because he's in a blue state, Mike. Like when you're in Hawaii, your vote doesn't count. You're in Indiana, your vote does count. And it really matters that your conservative viewpoints do get out to the forefront. But in all these leftist blue states, forget it. You're never going to have that luxury. I don't know how you can have. I don't know how you can feel knowing you go to the polls and no matter what your vote doesn't count. You're overwhelmed. You are overwhelmed by the blue state blues. That's what I call it, the blue state blues. It's always blue in the face. So this is hope after tonight, Mike, or Saturday, whenever it does end, that Trump comes out, he prevails in this thing, and it keeps the Sons of Liberty keep going on, and we don't have to have the nonsense of the Sons of Tyranny. That's all I got to say, Mike. Actually, thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day. And let's play for this our country and our great nation, and pray that we can pull this out. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, I certainly hope you're right here. And, I'm just very concerned over a possible Biden-Harris administration here. All right. Back to the phones here. First of all, the phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. We got about 12 minutes left in the show. And we're going to go to Joe in Tennessee. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, voted for Trump today. First time I voted for the same guy for president since Reagan. And this is definitely Tennessee country, so it's hard for me to tell what's going on anywhere else. As far as there was a lot of lines, a lot of nods. I wore my MAGA hat. And but I wanted to talk about this canard that I keep hearing repeated about the two parties are just the same. And they missed the whole point of Trump and what Trump has done. Yeah, 2012 is calling the guy in New Jersey. They want their Romney back because, that you're right. When it's Romney and Obama, you're right. The parties are the same. But Trump has hijacked the Republican Party. He's turned it from a globalist party to a nationalist party. Some of these people that call in, they're both the same. When would you ever think you've heard a president that was actually elected even say America first after what they did to Pat Buchanan?
Yes.
Say that they're the same. It's almost retarded, and it's an insult to your caller's intelligence. And I think maybe you should challenge him a little bit more when there's a few people they call. It's all the same. Why even bother? I'm going to vote third party because they're the only ones with any integrity. What are they talking about? I mean, the fact is, Layla really hit the nail on the head the other day when she said globalism and Zionism are basically in common. And there's a good reason to be a nationalist populist if you're anti-Zionist, and that is when you take away from globalism, you take power away from Zionism. And I think that's what Trump represents to me. Yes, there are a lot of Jews in his administration. Yes, a lot of them are like pro-Israel, but that doesn't mean they can't be nationalists and non-globalists. And it's really globalism is the enemy. And most globalists are Zionists, and most Zionists are globalists. So by fighting globalism, you're fighting Zionism. And also to not understand that what Donald Trump has done to the Republican Party is the only way you can succeed in a two-party system, which is hijack it, take it over, change it from a globalist establishment, blue blood Wall Street party to a populist nationalist working man's party. And that's what Trump has done to the Republican Party.
Joe, I got to put you on hold. Don't hang up. We got to take our last commercial break today. I got to reconnect our video, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program on this election day here. We're talking with Joe in Tennessee. And Joe, go ahead and wrap it up.
Oh, I just wanted to thank Miles and the guy from California and then Tom I mean, having all four of us in a row, it really did an exorcism for some of the lunatics that had called in earlier, as far as I'm concerned. They made a lot, at least their rational thoughts and not unbalanced, and their defendable positions. I mean, some of these people, they call in, and I just can't believe what I'm hearing. It's just, they have such an agenda. You know, the one thing I've always said about Trump is that he makes people expose themselves, and he does that not just on a national level, but on a personal level. You can, it's like the ugliness or the people, they show who they are. And it really does, it's really true. I mean, that one guy calling from New Jersey talking about Trump, you know, and how much money he's spending. I mean, I remember him calling up about closing down the country. Him and Dustin were two of the biggest Karens out there, you know. So yeah, so you want to shut down the country, and then Trump's got to expend money to like help the people out, and then look at Trump with his deficits. You know, imagine the deficits if Trump had shut down the country even more than those clowns up in New Jersey wanted, you know? So it's just unbelievable, the hypocrisy, but at the same time, they really do expose themselves as deranged Trump haters. There's no other reason for it. I mean, I know them calling in about immigration. We got to stop immigration. Well, you got a president that's stopping it. You know, you got a president that's building a wall, and he was fought tooth and nail. But no, just move on to the next thing. Now it's the deficit now. For years it was the wall. You know, and you know, I just hope that if Biden does win, he puts a Section 8 house right next to all up there in New Jersey, so all those Somalians can move into those neighborhoods where Dustin and the other guy live. You know, because then they're going to see the difference between Trump and Biden, and they won't have their guns to be able to defend themselves. So it's just ridiculous on so many levels. But I'll leave it at that, Mike. And happy Election Day. Let's hope Trump sews this thing up tonight so we can have some stability and the markets and everything can stay calm.
Oh, well, that's certainly a consummation devoutly to be wished here, although the stock market had a good day today. Thank you for the phone call, Joe. Now, John Stadmiller is going to be doing an extra long program tonight covering election results. The East Coast polls close an hour from now. He's going to be joined by Steve Elkins until 9 p.m. tonight, and then in the fourth hour, Don Campbell is going to be joining him as well. So they're going to be keeping an eye on what is going on out there with the elections. So you want to stay tuned for that. And again, yes, I hope that Trump wins in a landslide tonight so it doesn't turn into another 2000-esque debacle. But again, Pennsylvania is going to be a key state to keep an eye on. Okay, so please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting Network. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We're literally in a war against the corporate media to keep the truth out there, going out there to the American people. And should be hearing some music right about now. There it is. Okay. All right. So we'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have some definitive news about the election results. Aloha, America.